To stay up to date, don't forget to like and subscribe.
Eric Jimenez, City of Rancho Cucamonga, business owner, but more importantly, my father of a 10-year-old who keeps getting nosebleeds, and I am here supporting AB 1000.
On Wednesday, April 26, 2023, the local government committee in the California State Assembly heard two competing bills on the same topic, AB 1000 and AB 1748.
And good afternoon again, Ana Gonzalez. First and foremost, a mother of a son who suffers from asthma and who cannot go to school regularly like normal kids. Also representing Center for Community Action and Environmental Justice and Alianza Latina from Rialto Unify. I'm a Rialto resident in full support.
Thank you.
AB 1000 was authored by the Center for Community Action and Environmental Justice, a nonprofit group in the Inland Empire of San Bernardino and Riverside County. The bill was sponsored by Assemblywoman Eloise Gomez Reyes from District 50, the Inland Empire.
Hello, my name is Joaquin Castillejos. I am here representing Ceja Action, Communities for a Better Environment, the Center for Race, Poverty, and the Environment, here in support of AB 1000. No more warehouses next to our schools and homes. Thank you.
AB 1000 would have prevented warehouses over 100,000 square feet from being built within 1,000 feet of sensitive receptors, defined as residential neighborhoods, schools, and hospitals, measured from the property line of the project to the sensitive receptor property line.
Chris Robles, Ontario City of Ontario resident and founder of Fair Ontario, supporter of AB 1000, and I would just ask you, how many feet would you like a warehouse next to your house away? Thank you.
AB 1000 would have also mandated municipalities to disclose applications on their websites immediately upon receiving them, including all accompanying documents.
Good afternoon. My name is Anthony Noriega. I'm the District Director for the Inland Empire for the League of United Latin American Citizens, and we adamantly support AB 1000, and we reject AB 1748. Thank you.
AB 1000 could have potentially prevented Project Frontier entirely, as it only applied to new builds. Additionally, the disclosure requirements contained in AB 1000 could have given our community crucial warning about the application had it been in effect at the time the application was received.
My name is Marcus Worthington. I'm from El Dorado County and Citizens in Support of El Dorado Hills. I live 50 feet from a proposed 4.8 million square foot warehouse, and we're in favor of this bill.
Thank you.
My name is Whitney Worthington from El Dorado County, representing Citizens in Support of El Dorado Hills. There are schools and 55 and older communities 100 feet from a 4.8 million square foot facility. We support this bill.
My name is Katie Cleveland. I'm from El Dorado Hills, representing Citizens in Support of El Dorado Hills. I support this bill also. This 4.8 million square foot Amazon warehouse will be 50 feet from our homes and 50 feet from established schools. Thank you.
AB 1000 was heavily opposed by local governments and labor groups, but supported by warehouse workers and average citizens.
Hi, my name is Luis Carretero Cuevas. I'm a student and warehouse worker from San Bernardino County, and I'm in full support of AB 1000.
Hello, I'm Will Barrett with the American Lung Association and strong support, also registering the support of the San Bernardino County Medical Society, California Nurses for Environmental Health and Justice, Central California Asthma Collaborative, and PSR Bay Area chapter. Thank you very much.
Hi, Evan Minton speaking on behalf of NARAL Pro-Choice California, who wanted me to convey that proximity to warehouses causes reproductive health problems, and then Voices for Progress, which has a priority support position on this bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
AB 1748 would require a 300-foot setback, not of the building or property lines, but 300 feet as measured from the loading docks to the property line of sensitive receptors, such as homes, schools, and hospitals.
Hi, my name is Stacey Ramos from the City of Fontana, whose elected leaders did not listen to her when I brought up my concerns, and I'm in strong opposition to AB 1748. Thank you.
Kira Carter on behalf of Sierra Club California in strong opposition. Thank you.
AB 1748 contains no similar disclosure requirements as AB 1000. Prior to Wednesday's hearing, both AB 1748 and AB 1000 were amended to only pertain to San Bernardino and Riverside County. Had either passed, they would have in no way affected any other county. AB 1748 made it out of committee, AB 1000 did not.
Elizabeth Senna. I live in the city of Fontana, and my concerns continue to fall on deaf ears. So I strongly oppose AB 1748. 300 feet does nothing for us.
Hello, my name is Joaquin Castillejos. I am a resident of Bloomington, California. My elementary school was sold for a warehouse, and I am against AB 1748 because it allows things like that to happen. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Anthony Noriega. I'm the District Director for the League of United Latin American Citizens in the Inland Empire. It's about darn time that we have real legislation that protects our minority communities. Every time we turn around, we get left behind. I oppose AB 1748 adamantly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Neither bill would have done anything to address the trucking corridors created by these mega warehouses, such as we could see on Latrobe if Project Frontier is approved. The committee members, in their criticism of AB 1000, failed to explain why a 1,000-foot setback, or 0.18 miles, would incapacitate the business model for these warehouse complexes. However, they did spend a lot of time discussing the ways in which shrubs and landscaping could mitigate the visual eyesores created by the warehouses. Strangely, the committee chastised both sponsors of AB 1000 and AB 1748, stating AB 1000 went too far and AB 1748 did not go far enough.
The following are the full excerpts from each hearing.
Assembly member, when you're ready, please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members. First, I want to begin by thanking the committee for their work on this bill and accept the amendments outlined in the committee analysis. I am also committing to amend the bill to limit the scope to Riverside and San Bernardino counties and reducing the setback from 750 feet to 500 feet with mitigation measures. AB 1000 is the Good Neighbor Policy. It's a bill that works to create balance between our growing logistics industry here in California and the quality of life for residents living around and at times right next to warehouse facilities. AB 1000 creates guardrails so that local governments can approve warehouse projects without harming local residents. This bill is a product of months of research and feedback from stakeholders, state agencies, and community members. Every piece of the bill has a basis in evidence, from the size of the warehouse to the specific mitigation measures listed. I am proud to have labor unions, environmental and environmental justice organizations, healthcare providers, and community advocates, along with clean transportation and clean energy businesses in support of the bill. AB 1000, in addition to having a buffer zone of 1,000 feet for a warehouse or logistics center that is 100,000 square feet or more, it allows for local governments to approve a warehouse closer at 500 feet away from a sensitive receptor if the project adopts mitigation measures related to zero-emission vehicles, energy, infrastructure, and operating requirements on equipment and vehicle idling. The 1,000-foot buffer zone is based on recommendations from the California Air Resources Board, CARB, and the California Attorney General's Office. CARB conducted a study on the emissions reduction benefits communities would receive based on distance away from trucks and pollution. The conclusion was that with 1,000 feet provided between a warehouse and a sensitive receptor, it would provide for an 80% reduction in diesel particulate matter exposure to sensitive receptors. Warehouses attract heavy-duty diesel trucks, and the impact of these facilities has been felt by communities across California. According to the American Lung Association, California has 15 of the 25 most polluted areas in the country when it comes to year-round particulate matter pollution. To no surprise, a number of areas are located in the Central Valley and the Inland Empire. San Bernardino and Riverside counties are in the top 10 for particulate pollution and lead the country in ozone pollution. AB 1000 makes a proposal that when these large facilities are sited, that we keep them away from sensitive receptors, where children are, where families are being raised. I want to be clear that the number used in this bill are not, the numbers that we use are not arbitrary. As noted in the committee analysis, the Department of Justice best practices and mitigation measures to comply with CEQA recommends, per guidance from the California Air Resources Board, that warehouse facilities should be at least 1,000 feet from the property line of the nearest sensitive receptor. The committee analysis also states, and I quote, the South Coast Air Quality Management District analyses indicate that 1,000 feet substantially reduces diesel particulate matter concentrations. There's been a lot of misinformation on what the bill does, so let me set the record straight. This bill does not ban warehouse development, and it does not impact every warehouse project. It only applies to new warehouses that are developed that are over 100,000 square feet when they are being sited next to a sensitive receptor. There are built-in exemptions to the heavy-duty fleet requirements, the zero-emission equipment requirements, that we've taken amendments to make the solar energy and refueling infrastructure requirements easier for projects to implement by allowing contracting with third parties. This has been an issue that has impacted our community, and it is expanding beyond our community. The Inland Empire, San Bernardino, and Riverside counties have over 4 million square feet, 4,000 warehouses, over 1 billion square feet of warehouse space. I think that is why AB 1000 has a diverse coalition of supporters. Our doctors have written in support. The American Lung Association has written in support. The Pediatrics Academy has written in support. Environmentalists, organized labor, and many community-based organizations. I've worked hard to engage all the parties, including business and labor opposition, on this issue, and I've met with them in my district to discuss the impact. After years of engagement, it is clear to me that we agree on one thing for sure. Something has to be done. We can't continue with the status quo. And I think that's also evident here when we have two bills that also reflect the need for something to be done on warehouses. I recently received amendments from the opposition, and we're currently discussing these. I'm confident that with the conversations, we will continue to move closer to make sure that we take care of the needs of all of the opposition. I've never been anti-warehouse, but I've always been pro-community. I understand that our logistics industry is pivotal to our economy. I recognize that, and the community recognizes that. But I also recognize that it is our duty to do something to protect our communities. And if the Air Resources Board, after their studies, has determined that 1,000 feet is what is needed for the protection of the health of the community, then we begin there. But we do have some good we have good workers, good warehouse developers, and they have left that buffer zone. And we have some that have included many of the mitigation measures that we talk about in the bill and that have been proposed as amendments. So we do have good neighbors, and I applaud them. And when I've done tours in the district of the warehouses, yes, I do show those that are right next to the schools. In fact, one of the schools in Bloomington will now shut down because of all the warehouses that have been approved all around that school. So the school district, to protect the children, has now agreed to sell the school to the developers. We need to do something, and it has to do with planning. What this bill does is it sets guardrails. And with the proposals or with the amendments that the committee has proposed, I think it makes it a better bill. And with that, I would respectfully ask for your aye vote. But here to testify on behalf of this bill are Liz Sena from the Center for Community Action and Environmental Justice, and Susan Phillips from the Pitzer College Robert Redford Conservancy. Welcome.
Okay. Hello. Okay. Good afternoon. My name's Elizabeth Senna, and I do work for the Center for Community Action and Environmental Justice. However, I also reside in the egregious city of Fontana and in the county of San Bernardino, and I am a sensitive receptor. But to my children, I am mommy. To my husband, I am wife. And to my parents, I am hija, which means daughter. Today, I sit here in support of AB 1000. And as my family dropped me off last night, I encouraged my 5-year-old daughter to be brave and strong as she fought back tears while saying goodbye to me. Today, I encouraged myself to be brave and strong as I sit here before you, testifying on a bill that will impact thousands of lives and hundreds of communities statewide. The state of California and New York are known to have some of the toughest laws in the nation, so please don't let me down today. As California state legislators, you wouldn't be doing your job if you didn't pass the most stringent bill available to you today. Actually, you would be doing a disservice to residents of communities with abusive local leaders like mine. I encourage you to leave here today on the right side of history, knowing that at the bare minimum, you actively participated in setting forth laws that would help protect people, families, and children at times when they are unable to do that themselves, and especially when their local government refuses to. Don't believe the notion that you are removing local power when in fact you are creating stronger policies that stand to conserve the quality of life for residents. A year ago, the California Attorney General filed a lawsuit against the city of Fontana for building a warehouse right next to a high school, but was ultimately unsuccessful because there were no and currently are no state laws that help hold development responsible statewide and help safeguard communities. That is why Fontana was forced to settle for a reckless ordinance of only 300 buffer feet, which is considered stringent. Meanwhile, the city of Riverside has a 800-foot setback for developments over 100,000. Please don't believe the intentional false narratives that favor warehouse developments, mislead people to think that this bill is a job killer or that this bill will negatively impact housing developments. The real job killer is automation, which is where these warehouses are headed. Respectfully, the union construction workers are do as they told. So whether it's 300 feet or 1,000 feet, they will still have to build it. I have yet to see or hear any warehouse worker or union come in and support for these developments. And for the record, we are not saying no, don't build. We are simply asking for the bill to be responsible and to take into consideration the people and families that live nearby. I urge you to hold up your constitutional values to protect the people. Our communities of color need the most protecting because oftentimes we lack proper representation. So we're willing to put anyone of color in those positions when in the end, they sell out our community to developers for money. Profits aren't made with money, they're made with people. Corporations don't need protecting, the people of California do. Additionally, I'd like to point out that AB 1738 is irresponsible, and its authors and contributors should be ashamed because it's a narrative that does not represent our reality back home. Approving anything less than a 1,000-foot buffer is wrong, offensive, and should be considered an endangerment. Don't let the numbers 300 feet run a political circus on your deciding power to protect people. So now, I encourage you to be brave and strong and say yes to protecting the people of California. It will make my return back home to my diesel death zone a bit more tolerable. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
My name is Susan Phillips from the Redford Conservancy at Pitzer College. Right now in the Inland Empire, we have 35,000 acres of warehouses That is about 55 square miles, mostly clustered within the western portion of Riverside and San Bernardino counties, now with tendrils that are reaching deeper and deeper into both counties, what we call warehouse sprawl. As of today, another 12,500 acres are pending or approved. This is a 35% increase in that footprint since 2020, which adds an additional 20 square miles. So altogether, we're talking about 75 square miles of warehouse, approximately the size of Washington, D.C., bigger actually than Washington, D.C. Unlike the statements counter to AB 1000, it is still possible with the stringent requirement of 1,000 feet that many hundreds, if not thousands, of warehouses can be constructed even within the Inland Empire. And so we included those numbers in our letter. Another claim against AB 1000 that I wanted to address with some new numbers, not included in our letter, is the idea of it being a job killer. So warehouse projects bring between 5 and 12 jobs per acre. It's a low ratio depending on how you count it. Unfortunately, that is likely to get lower with automation. On the high end, basically we have right now about 275,000 jobs in the Inland Empire and an extremely low unemployment rate, meaning everybody's working. If you add the pending additional 12,500 acres to that, you get about 150,000 extra jobs that are pending, between 100 and 150,000, just depending on how you count it. Even if AB 1000 were to cut that number in half, you'd still be talking about an additional 50 to 100,000 jobs. There is no way that this is a job killer. Happy to provide statistics for you on that if you need to. The other thing is that keep in mind that the GDP of the region remains at near the bottom despite the high levels of employment. The footprint of warehouses crosses municipal boundaries. It is experienced collectively, and each of these projects has been approved incrementally by a local agency with little appropriate cumulative impact analysis. So this issue of warehouses far supersedes the decision-making authority of any single government agency. In the Inland Empire, for example, there are 600 warehouses that that are within or nearer than 300 feet of 139 schools. That's a lot of kids confronting a lot of trucks, breathing a lot of fumes, and there were about 21,000 kids in San Bernardino County who missed 11 or more days of school due to asthma in the past year or two. In the air quality world, we have a saying, dilution is the solution to pollution. And the bigger the buffer, the better the outcome for health, the better the outcome for biodiversity, the better the outcome for heat, for water, for almost everything. The absence of clear state-level guidelines like the ones in AB 1000 has created not just the possibility, but the probability and likelihood that local agencies will continue to make land use decisions that harm children and communities. So we're asking you to support strong, uniform boundaries around this to balance the critical foundation of local government control with the duty to our children, to SB 1000 communities, to biodiversity, and to our state. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there other witnesses in support of AB 1000?
Sakira Carter on behalf of Sierra Club California in strong support. Thank you.
Sophia Afikoa with the Coalition for Clean Air in support.
Environmental student organization at Sac State in strong support with a suggestion that small construction companies should be exempted initially for at least 6 months. Government should provide tools like a website where a company has to put in their data of how much material and what process they will be using and what is their daily functioning to know their environmental impact quickly and cost effectively for them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Fatima Iqbal Zubair with California Environmental Voters in strong support of AB 1000. Also speaking on behalf of 350 Sacramento, 350 Humboldt, Union of Concerned Scientists, Climate Action California, the Climate Center, Riverside Neighbors Opposing Warehouses, Amigos de los Rios, Friends Committee on Legislation of California, and NARAL, California, in strong support of AB 1000. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Moise Mir speaking on behalf of Convent Clan in strong support of the bill.
Thank you.
Hi, Evan Minton speaking on behalf of NARAL Pro-Choice California, who wanted me to convey that proximity to warehouses causes reproductive health problems, and then Voices for Progress, which has a priority support position on this bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Tracy Ryan, Rural County Representative of California. We are currently reflected as an opposed. With the amendments discussed by the author today, we'll be moving to support.
Thank you.
And good afternoon again, Ana Gonzalez. First and foremost, a mother of a son who suffers from asthma and who cannot go to school regularly like normal kids. Also representing Center for Community Action and Environmental Justice and Alianza Latina from Rialto Unify. I'm a Rialto resident in full support.
Thank you.
Stacey Ramos from Fontana, California, the warehouse capital of the IE, and I'm strongly supportive of AB 1000. I just got diagnosed with asthma, so this is really personal to me because it affects my health. So thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Marcus Worthington. I'm from El Dorado County and Citizens in Support of El Dorado Hills. I live 50 feet from a proposed 4.8 million square foot warehouse, and we're in favor of this bill.
Thank you.
My name is Whitney Worthington from El Dorado County, representing citizens in support of El Dorado Hills. There are schools and 55 and older communities 100 feet from a 4.8 million square foot facility. We support this bill.
My name is Katie Cleveland. I'm from El Dorado Hills, representing citizens in support of El Dorado Hills. I support this bill also. This 4.8 million square foot Amazon warehouse will be 50 feet from our homes and 50 feet from established schools. Thank you.
Name?
Melanie Morales with the Green Line Institute in support.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. Nicholas Mazzotti on behalf of CalSTAR in support of AB 1000. Thank you.
Dan Shaw for Flow EV Charging in support.
Buenas tardes. Apoyo AB1000. Gracias.
Yo soy Clarissa, vivo en Riverside, estudio en Colegio de Pittsburgh y yo soporto AB1000.
Good afternoon, Sky Allen with Inland Empire United in full support of AB 1000. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Anthony Noriega. I'm the District Director for the Inland Empire for the League of United Latin American Citizens, and we adamantly support AB 1000, and we reject AB 1748. Thank you.
My name is Melissa May, and I am the Deputy District Director for the League of United Latin American Citizens for the Inland Empire. We adamantly reject 1748. We wholeheartedly support AB 1000.
I would like to remind everyone we're just talking about AB 1000 right now, so this is opposition. Come on up.
Mi nombre es Claudia Cuevas, vengo de la ciudad de San Bernardino y vengo apoyando a AB1000 para una mejor comunidad para nuestras familias. Gracias.
Mi nombre es Miriam Quiñones y vivo en la ciudad de Rialto y vengo apoyando a AB1000.
Mi nombre es Jorge Pérez, soy de Bloomington y estoy apoyando a la proposición AB1000 porque es justa. Gracias.
Regina Banks, Lutheran Office of Public Policy, California, strong support.
Chris Robles, Ontario City of Ontario resident and founder of Fair Ontario, supporter of AB 1000, and I would just ask you, how many feet would you like a warehouse next to your house away? Thank you.
Eric Jimenez, City of Rancho Cucamonga, business owner, but more importantly, my father of a 10-year-old who keeps getting nosebleeds, and I am here supporting AB 1000.
Good afternoon, Daryl Little on behalf of NRDC and strong support. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Angel Ramirez from Bloomington. I support AB 1000. I think warehouses are bad for my family's health and mine and the whole community. Bye.
Hello, I'm Will Barrett with the American Lung Association and Strong Support, also registering the support of the San Bernardino County Medical Society, California Nurses for Environmental Health and Justice, Central California Asthma Collaborative, and PSR Bay Area chapter. Thank you very much.
Hola, mi nombre es Gemma Pérez, vengo de Bakersfield, del condado de Kern, y estoy apoyando la AB1000 porque no queremos que haya bodegas cerca de nuestras escuelas por la contaminación, por las calles y por el tráfico. Muchas gracias.
Hola, mi nombre es Lucía, vengo de Bakersfield y apoyo a AB1000. Es todo. Gracias.
Hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Nancy, vengo de Bakersfield y apoyo a AB1000.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Betty Basulto, vivo en Kern y también apoyo la AB1000. No queremos cerca de nuestras casas y de nuestras escuelas bodegas que van a dañar más nuestra salud. Gracias. Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Ofelia Valdés y estoy aquí para apoyar AB1000. Gracias.
My name is Francis Calderon. I'm from Bakersfield, and I support the AB 1000.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Arcelia Álvarez, venimos de Bakersfield, California. Yo vengo para apoyar la ley B1000, que no queremos bodegas cerca de nuestras casas, de nuestras escuelas. De por sí hay mucha contaminación y un poco más. Muchas gracias.
Hello, my name is Joaquin Castillejos. I am here representing Ceja Action, Communities for a Better Environment, the Center for Race, Poverty, and the Environment, here in support of AB 1000. No more warehouses next to our schools and homes. Thank you.
Hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Ana Lilia Mendoza, vengo de Madera y estoy apoyando a la AB1000. Gracias.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Susana Carranza y represento el condado de Kern y vengo a apoyar la AB1000. Gracias.
Hi, my name is Luis Carretero Cuevas. I'm a student and warehouse worker from San Bernardino County, and I'm in full support of AB 1000.
My name is Xavier Brambila. I'm a student from San Bernardino County, and I'm in full support of AB 1000.
Are there any more speakers in support? No. Thank you. Do we have any speakers in opposition to come forward, please? Anyone who speak? Sir, do you want to speak up here? Okay, please.
Yeah, for sure. Of course.
Please proceed. Good afternoon.
Chair, members. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is James Thurwachter. I'm with the California State Council of Laborers. First, I want to thank the author. I want to thank the committee for the numerous conversations we've had. It feels like countless this year. But since the inception of these conversations that we've had, which for me started about 3 years ago when I started with the laborers, we have maintained and kept our doors open and ears open. So we understand the sensitivity of the issues that the majority leader is trying to address here. We have done not just our due diligence, but we have went above and beyond and have reluctantly but respectfully provided some reasonable alternate language this week. And we are even sponsoring another measure that we feel shares and addresses the same interests and goals as AB 1000, but we believe is a little bit more balanced. We have yet to receive a response from the majority leader on the language that we provided, so without a solid commitment on what we have provided, we must remain opposed today. So thank you for that. Madam Chair and members, the laborers are comprised of 70,000 men and women throughout the state. We are black and brown. We are men and women. A lot of us come from the criminal justice system, many from the foster care system, but collectively what we do is we build California. We build California's water, energy, and transportation infrastructure, and we take great pride in doing so. And with all due respect, none of our construction jobs are being automated, not today, not tomorrow. So I'd like to just debunk those comments that were made earlier. We are very sensitive to climate and environmental issues. In fact, we have been visibly increasing our presence in the renewable energy sector and growing our footprint in the green job sector, such as those associated with wildfire mitigation. But this bill, AB 1000, simply goes too far. It puts the livelihoods of our members and the integrity of the goods movement sector at risk. There is a plethora of existing regulations that exist right now that address the very issue of air quality. And just a few weeks ago, the EPA did grant California legal authority to implement CARB's Advanced Clean Trucks rule. This will require half of all new heavy trucks to be all electric by 2035. This is the most aggressive in the nation. The settlement agreement with the city of Fontana and the Attorney General Bonta imposed a 300-foot setback. Local elected officials and then Attorney General Bonta, or excuse me, the current Attorney General Bonta, both agreed this ordinance should serve as a model for other local governments across the state. This bill calls for a far more egregious setback. We have men and women who live in the IE and are able to lift themselves out of poverty and into the middle class with these local jobs. The cities and counties within the state are just as diverse as our membership, and it is local government who is best at making these planning decisions. AB 1000 would institute a blanket policy that would have a detrimental effect on the goods movement industry and would also make a de facto moratorium that would force our workers to commute longer distances to the LA basin, thereby increasing their tailpipe emissions and BMT. So with that, we respectfully ask for you to vote no today.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Adam Regley on behalf of the California Chamber of Commerce. We remain in respectful opposition. We have seen the proposed amendments, but I want to speak to what those amendments do and why we still remain opposed. So the impetus of the bill is about a 1,000-foot setback. The amendments we saw this morning effectively create what we see as an alternative pathway that is actually not possible to utilize. There's 10 mitigation measures outlined in AB 1000, effectively, which are either prohibitively expensive or in some cases actually technologically impossible to achieve. For example, photovoltaic cells on the rooftops of warehouses that power both the building envelope and all of the EV trucks that are required under the mitigation measures is actually technologically not possible. There's also connection requirements that are not at the hands of the developer to actually connect. It's utilities and others who connect on their timeframes. And so to require developers to meet aggressive timelines that they have no control over, it sets up them for failure. And so we're back to a 1,000-foot setback. The 1,000-foot setback, the impetus of the entire AB 1000, really comes from a 2005 ARB document, a guidance document that has not been updated in almost 2 decades. And there's a reason that the agency has not done that. They have pursued, as my colleague from the laborers have mentioned, the most aggressive rulemaking in the country to address what the heart that we see this issue is, which is tailpipe emissions from the goods movement sector, moving everything that we rely on from Southern California all the way up to the Northern California and the nation. 30% of our exports and imports come out of these ports. Even if you were to push a setback, you literally move all of the warehouses just farther out of these communities where all of the jobs we just talked about are now pushed out, either out of those communities or even out of the state. You will still be trucking goods from those ports through those communities to those now farther out warehouses and then trucking all of those goods right back through. It doesn't actually address the issue. That's why ARB, the South Coast Air Quality Management District, and local air agencies are going after the heart of it, which is trucks. In 2005 to now, we have a 99% reduction in particulate matter from rulemaking that has pushed the diesel engines to include scrubbers. And so these new engines, as my colleague mentioned, are also then now being moved to zero emission. And so collectively, that is getting at the heart of it. A 1,000-foot setback, in our view, is extremely rudimentary, and in fact, for example, what that means in terms of scale, the smallest warehouse that this bill targets, 100,000 square feet, it requires a 6-acre parcel. A 1,000-foot buffer around it would mean you need 53 acres of land in order to do that. That's an 801% increase. These are massively large buffers. I think folks think about 1,000 feet as just, right across the street. This is going to have massive implications across the state, and because the goods movement come from these ports, it is a statewide implication even under this new amendment package. And so for all of those reasons, mixed-use development that hurts housing, jobs related to the goods movement sector and who build these warehouses, as well as all of the issues in terms of cost of living associated with efficient movement of goods. And we haven't even talked about VMTs, but pushing warehouses farther out also is directly contrary to California's climate change policies regarding building and folks living where they work. This will definitely exacerbate VMT issues. And so for all of those reasons, we must remain respectfully opposed. Thank you.
Are there, excuse me, are there other witnesses in opposition?
Good afternoon, committee members. My name is Diego Hernandez. I am a member of La Una, Laborers Union. And on behalf of my brothers and sisters, we oppose AB 1000. Please give us an opportunity to work where we live.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and committee members. My name is Olivia Navarro, and I'm a member, a proud member, a mother of 3 of La Una Laborers Local 270. And I come before you today to oppose AB 1000 as it displaces workers and forces us out of our own communities, and we'll spend less time, one thing that wasn't talked about, less time with our kids and our families. So please, respectfully oppose AB 1000.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's remember.
Yes,
name.
ma'am. I think I know the drill, Madam Chair. P. Anthony Thomas, representing the California Building Industry Association, CBIA, in opposition to AB 1000. Setback is just too much. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, members, for your time.
Madam Chair and members, Matthew Harger with the California Business Properties Association, representing 10,000 companies in our affiliated associations of BOMA, California, and NAIOP of California. We oppose AB 1000. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jonathan Shardlow on behalf of NAIOP IE and personally an Inland Empire resident and strong opposition of AB 1000.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, Benjamin Lopez, Policy Director for the Inland Empire Economic Partnership and a resident of Fontana, respectfully in opposition to AB 1000.
Thank you.
Chris Kahn, representing the Building Industry Association of Southern California, in opposition.
Alyssa Silhai on behalf of the City of Eastvale, also in opposition. However, we will be reviewing the amendments.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Moira Top on behalf of the Orange County Business Council in opposition.
Nicole Wardelman on behalf of San Bernardino County in respectful opposition.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. Nicole Trujillo Rice on behalf of the California State Building Construction Trades Council, respectfully opposed.
Gail Delahant with Western Growers Association, opposed.
Madam Chair and members, Tricia Geringer with Agricultural Council of California, respectfully opposed.
Madam Chair and members, Bo Biller on behalf of the Association of Western Employers, also opposed.
Thank you, members. Rob Spiegel, California Manufacturers and Technology Association, in opposition. Thanks.
Margie Lee on behalf of the California League of Food Producers in opposition. Thank you.
Chair and members, Alex Torres of the Bay Area Council in respectful opposition.
Good afternoon, members and Chair. Fabian Urbina on behalf of Western States Petroleum Association in opposition.
Greg Herner on behalf of the Can Manufacturers Institute in opposition.
Charles Wright on behalf of the San Manuel Band of Mission Indians in opposition.
Nick Romo with the League of California Cities in Opposition. Look forward to seeing the amendments. Thank you.
Matt Roman on behalf of the Union Pacific Railroad in opposition.
Chris Shimoda, California Trucking Association in opposition. Ryan Elaine on behalf of the California Retailers Association in opposition. Thank you.
Natalie Baus with the California Business Roundtable in opposition.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Carlos Gutierrez on behalf of the California Fresh Food Association and other various agricultural commodities in opposition.
Are there any questions of the committee? Assemblymember Berner?
Yeah, so could the author explain the amendments that you are promising to take? They're not the amendments in print, but what are the amendments that you're promising to take in summary?
Thank you. The first is to limit it to San Bernardino and Riverside County. This is what my bill was last time. Although I do believe it's a policy that should be throughout California, because San Bernardino and Riverside County has seen the greatest influx of warehouses. That was a request that was made, and I think it is proper at this time to include just Riverside and San Bernardino County. The second was to reduce the distance if there were mitigating factors. So we've reduced it from 750 feet to 500 feet, so that the buffer zone is only 500 feet, so long as there are mitigating factors. It seemed like a reasonable request.
Do all mitigating factors have to be met?
No. There are a number of items. The issue is whether or not we are harming the community. If 1,000 feet is what the Air Resources Board determined was what was needed to protect the community, what we want to do is, if there are mitigating factors that will give us the same benefit, because it's protecting the health of the community that we're looking at. And if those are the mitigating factors, and in fact, they were part of the settlement that was reached with Fontana, they are also part of the guidelines that are with the Attorney General's office. And that is where we were able to pick those.
Okay. So I'm going to repeat what I said last year, I think, in this committee about this bill. And I think I said it earlier today about a different author's bill, we are solving a problem that should have been solved at the local level. In my communities, you would not see a warehouse sited near a sensitive site. And by sensitive site, I mean specifically certain places where vulnerable populations play. So I'm thinking about schools, preschools, parks, nursing homes. That's what I'm thinking, right? People where they're tied to that location. So when I think about that, it is egregious that the local electeds are deciding to do this. We would not do this in our community. We would not endanger our community this way. As I also said, I grew up in Riverside with the worst air quality in the state of California when I was a kid. I've experienced it now. I don't get asthma, but I can't run. Well, that might just be me. Again, I can run for other things. But when I look at this, that's what we're solving for. And again, we're trying to find this path to do it. The other thing I want to remind us is we have a 1,000-foot setback from pot shops. I'm sorry, we call them cannabis dispensaries now. I'm old. So 1,000 feet from sensitive sites is reasonable, right? Like, that's a reasonable thing. However, the process, we can't usurp the local authority. I don't think it's right for us to be always usurping the local authority without giving them some flexibility to more nuance, have a nuanced measurement of what the actual emissions are. What is the actual impact on the community? What's the actual mitigation that needs to be done? And I think that the bill is quite prescriptive, and I think those are things that really, really need to be addressed should this bill move forward, because I think we have a problem. We do not want to be endangering the health of our communities. That is, I think none of us disagree about that. None of us disagree that, or all of us can agree we want healthy, clean air for our children and for our vulnerable populations and our constituents. How we get there, how prescriptive we are, Where's the flexibility? And I'm not seeing that flexibility in the bill. And that has always been a concern. We've talked at length. I think over the last 3 years, we've talked at length about this. And so I have concerns about that. So I just want to express that. But, you know, those are my thoughts.
May I? If you want to address them all at one time, if you don't mind, Assemblymember Wilson.
Thank you. Thank you to the author for, you know, your due diligence on this and sticking with it over a number of years, and trying to achieve in your area a way to create a more healthy environment. We all know at the end of the day, to be a healthy person, you have to be in a healthy environment. That's why so many of us on this dais and in the legislature, I would say all 20 of us agree, 120 of us, trying to shorten us, but 120 of us agree that, you know, clean air, clean water is extremely important. When I think about this particular bill, and this is a conversation we had last time, I had just come off of being a local mayor and a local leader for a total of 12 years in my community, where we approved various projects and looked at what are the mitigating factors for all of our projects, no matter what. So much so that we kept doing it one after one after one, that we decided we needed to build a framework for us to operate on, and developed a good neighbor policy and a couple other policies as relates to zoning. And that was really helpful for our city, but it was nuanced and it was based on our city. And there are many cities within my district that did the same thing. And so my concern is similar to my colleague who was just by me a moment ago, is that we are being prescriptive and we're not allowing local leaders to make these decisions. And when local leaders are egregious and not doing what they're supposed to do, there's other avenues to hold them accountable, including by the voters. But I still believe that it has to be done, you know, at the local level. And there has to be a balance between how do we support our communities, provide for our communities, ensure they're healthy, and at the same time have goals at the state that restrict, which is why we have our greenhouse gas emission goals, which is why we have a lot of our environmental climate goals, is to push us to where we're forcing everyone to comply in a way that ensures that every single California has clean air and clean water. And I think that's the route to take versus being so prescriptive from the state and setting a one-size-fit-all approach for every single project within an area. And you'll find, as we've talked previously on other issues, is that I don't like the one-size-fit-all approach for California, and I don't like the one-size-fit-all approach for our businesses, because each one does things differently. Some are good actors, some are bad actors, and our job really is to mitigate those bad actors and also support our local leaders and give them the tools and resources they need to be able to do their job better. So I won't be able to support your bill today. I think there's a different approach, a better approach, and for those reasons, I won't be able to go out. Thank you.
Assemblymember Pacheco.
Thank you. And thank you to the author. I know we've had multiple conversations, but I also come from local city councils. And so for me, I've actually opposed several bills that have mandates on us cities. And I know you're willing to, the author is willing to amend it where it's only specific counties, San Bernardino and Riverside. And the residents of District 64 are the ones that voted me in. But at the end of the day, I also represent the state of California. So I'm also mindful of the impacts in other counties. And I also think we need to provide the tools and resources needed for our local elected officials. But I also do not want to take away their control and their input on what's good and healthy and safe in their communities. They were elected by the residents, and if the residents feel like the local electeds are not doing what they're supposed to be doing, or they do not agree, then they can vote them out of office. But I'm always very mindful of local elected officials and representatives, assembly members, senators from those specific counties. So I hope that you work with your local electeds. I commend you on your efforts, and I commend you for reaching out to me several times. Unfortunately, I will not be able to support your bill because of the reasons I stated. But I appreciate you tremendously, and I look forward to working with you on other bills. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Assemblymember Dixon.
Thank you, Chair. This is really a tough one because we're trying to balance in California growth, jobs, and quality of life. I do believe in hearing from our colleagues that the state of California for many years has imposed regulations in the state relating to clean air, and they are in place, and the vehicle emission requirements that are in place certainly for the automobile and trucking industry. It concerns me that well, let me back up before I get into my concerns. I'm very pleased to sit on the local government committee and to hear my colleagues who've also served on local government. Many of us have, and we still wear our local government hats because we know the challenges at local government, and this is where the people, and this is really why I ran for office, is to represent local government point of view. And even the mandate, whether it's 1,000 or 500 or 350, that's a mandate on local government. I mean, that is local governments today can decide what the setbacks are for their commercial or residential developments, and the state already is getting involved in those decisions, as we already know, from a housing standpoint and in commercial industrial areas. I am concerned with the long-term consequences of these type of mandates. This is really significant, and what it does to the shipment of goods and the provision of goods that come into the Los Angeles and Long Beach ports and are shipped out to this area. It's provided thousands and thousands of jobs. And just hearing the number of schools in the area, I mean, those didn't exist many years ago. And so the population clearly has migrated out to the Inland Empire and brought it in to be a thriving economic engine for the state. I just worry about, with us putting up obstacles to business over and beyond what the state has already imposed and is achieving, then we're just driving jobs and driving the logistics business to a state that's low cost, and it's only a few hours away from Riverside and San Bernardino counties. So it gives me, you've worked, I understand, I'm new here, but I know you've worked for a long time, and you work so hard, and your passion and your heart is in this, trying to reconcile these issues. Nobody wants any business to create a health hazard for our residents or children or anyone. It's just balancing the needs, because these families still need jobs, good paying, middle class paying jobs. And ironically, they could practically take a bicycle to work. I mean, this is really what the state has been trying to do, live, work, and play within a nearby area. So I'm just concerned about the long-term consequences of driving business out of California, and local government needs to be making these decisions. And if they fail to make good decisions, the voters have an alternative. So I cannot support this. I'm disappointed about that. We just need to balance better, and that's where I'm coming from. I did say to you yesterday when we were chatting, this would apply to any industrial project that's located nearby a residential area. I'd like to see good developers and quality businesses that really want to bring quality of life into their communities, because they're hiring out of the communities. They could do some things with landscaping just to make quality landscaping, not a little bush, but to put the green walls and some trees and this 350 or 500 face setback. You could do that just to make it a pleasant environment for the families that are living within close proximity. So, long-winded speech, but I can't support it. But I hope if there are amendments in the process, I hope that can be worked out. So, thank you.
Assemblymember Waldron.
Yeah, I'd like to start off with a couple of questions. So currently, so the bill only goes forward. It doesn't affect existing warehouses.
That is correct. It only applies to new development of warehouses that are over 100,000 square feet. If there is a smaller warehouse and they expand it beyond 100,000 square feet, it would apply to them. But the bill, as written, only applies prospectively to the new building.
Okay. So it was mentioned in one of the testimonies that some amendments have come in will you be looking at those and?
Yes, the amendments, there are three separate areas. One has to do with what sensitive receptors are. They've asked that we take out 2 of the identified sensitive receptors. I don't have an issue with that. We would accept that. The other, they've offered some mitigating factors, and those we have to look at a little closer to see. They have triggers that would be required before the mitigating factors could be considered. And the other has to do with the distance and how we measure the distance.
Okay. Okay. So I have serious concerns with the bill, obviously. I do agree with the opposition and the clear points that they make of this being a job killer, hurting the trucking industry, obviously housing, businesses, increasing the cost of goods. It's far too restrictive, as some of our colleagues have said. There are going to be massive impacts on some of the hardest working people in the state, as labor had pointed out. That being said, also, I've read over the amendments. I've had good conversations with the author. So I understand the climate goals you're trying to reach and the vulnerable communities that you're trying to help. It just doesn't seem that the way this bill is at its currently, and especially as it's currently in print, is something that is going to be workable to achieve everything that you want to achieve. So I do agree with my colleague from San Diego regarding allowing more control for the local communities. While the amendments move the bill a little, we need to see more in that regard, especially for as having served in local government. But I know the dedication you have to this issue and the commitment to keep working on it, with hopefully with industry, creating something that might be workable, that maybe is a different approach in some regard or altogether. So I do want to make it clear, though, if this bill comes to us on the floor as it currently is, I am not going to be supportive of it.
Are there any other comments? Okay, entertain a motion. I'll move the bill. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second by Assemblymember Waldron. Would you like to close?
Thank you so much. I think one of the issues that has been talked a lot about is the local control. In fact, California passes a number of laws that have to do with setting the guardrails within land use planning for purposes of safety, inclusion, equity, standardization, from zoning to the size and distance of traffic signals. There are lots of things that California can do and should do. Is this bill perfect? Absolutely not. I just received the proposed amendments 2 days ago. I've been working on this for 6 years. So I absolutely appreciate that we did receive proposed amendments from the laborers, and that's a step in the right direction, in my opinion. The fact that we are engaging in this conversation. As I mentioned earlier, I did have tours for both Cal Chamber and for the industry, so they could see the good neighbors and those who are not good neighbors. If we have warehouses that are being built right next to schools to the point where the school has to be sold, California has to step in. We cannot allow our communities to suffer this way. So with that, I would respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Well, Assemblymember Reyes, thank you for bringing the bill forward. I want to thank you for working on the committee amendments and you continuing to work on this bill. This is one of 2 bills on this subject that is before our committee today. The 2 bills differ significantly in their approach in this issue. No matter what happens in the committee today, it is imperative that we strike the right balance on this issue by having all stakeholders and both authors work together to bridge the gaps. I know that you've championed this issue since we first came to the Assembly 6 years ago, and I appreciated your efforts to try to address the concerns of the opposition before and your willingness to address some of their concerns with the amendments you're accepting today. You know, I sit and I'm kind of scratching my head on this because I feel like if locals were really paying attention, you wouldn't be in the situation you are today around schools and some of those sensitive areas, and so I'm frustrated. But we can try to make that change, and maybe it won't happen. I'm happy to support the bill today, and I hope that the conversation continues with all stakeholders and both authors working collaboratively, regardless of what the committee's will is today. The motion is due pass as amended to Appropriations Committee. Secretary, please call the roll.
Aguilar Curry.
Aye.
Aguilar Curry, aye. Dixon.
No.
Dixon, no. Berner. Pacheco. Pacheco not voting. Ramos. Ramos not voting. Rivas. Waldron. Waldron, aye. Wilson. Wilson not voting. 2-1.
Right now it's 2-1. We'll wait for the missing members.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's see who we have next. I think we're going to stretch, just a 2-minute stretch for this committee. AB 1748, and begin when you're comfortable.
Thank you. We have our witnesses getting ready to get seated here.
Didn't I see these guys before?
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair and members. I would like to start by accepting the committee amendments, certainly working together to strengthen a bill that is such a much-needed issue in our area. I have represented the local region in San Bernardino County in various positions and elected positions since 2005. While serving on the County Board of Supervisors, the issue of a balanced approach on warehouse development was an issue that was brought before the Board of Supervisors in 2015. There was a project that was moving forward in which I voted against the project because I felt that the concerns were not being addressed and didn't have that balance with them. AB 1748 is a balanced approach to address environmental and health concerns while also protecting the vital economic supply lines for goods in the state, nation, and the globe. Among other things, this bill would set a 300-foot minimum setback for these facilities next to sensitive receptors. This is commonly known as a good neighbor policy. The bill follows the model set out last year after vigorous debate and hard-won compromise between the Sierra Club of San Gregorio chapter, the Attorney General Rob Bonta, and developers to minimize the impacts of warehouse projects in the city of Fontana. This bill is important to the Inland Empire, as more than 35% of our labor force commutes to the coastal areas for work. Within the Inland Empire, the close proximity to the ports is vital to our economy. In addressing the need to mitigate vital health concerns important to us all, while also protecting local jobs and critical supply chain, this bill, AB 1748, has struck a compromise that has taken time to get together. With me today to testify in support of this bill are the co-sponsors, Paul Granillo from the Inland Empire Economic Partnership and James Thurwachter from the California State Council of Laborers. This bill is meant to set a base minimum for local jurisdictions, the 300-foot setback, and then above that, local jurisdictions still retain their local authority to continue to strengthen this ordinance in their local area that would give direction to the Planning Commission. We have the witnesses.
Good afternoon again, Chair and members. James Thurwachter with the California State Council of Laborers. It's an honor to be here before you today. Our membership is comprised of 70,000 men and women statewide who work in the heavy construction industry. We are the backbone of California's infrastructure. The laborers have long held that the goals of promoting responsible environmental legislation and protecting well-paying union careers is not and should never be mutually exclusive. AB 1748 heeds the concerns of the community by implementing sensible and pragmatic solutions to the air quality issues that exist near schools and other sensitive areas. In addition, AB 1748 respects the expertise of local government and protects the thousands of jobs that the goods movement industry has supported. This bill was not drafted with arbitrary numbers in mind. AB 1748 looked to the comprehensive settlement agreement between the City of Fontana and the Office of the Attorney General for guidance. In reference to the settlement, AG Bonta said, and I quote, "This demonstrates how innovative solutions can be used to address environmental injustices without hindering development." He went on to emphasize, "This ordinance should serve as a model for other local governments across the state." The truth is this: our members are integral to the Inland Empire. They work in the communities in which they reside. When we talk about vulnerable communities, we empower them. The overwhelming majority of our members are people of color. We're seeing a surge in women joining our apprenticeship programs. Many of us come directly from the criminal justice or foster care systems. This bill provides these individuals with certainty with respect to jobs, and it will also keep them in the community rather than having them requiring them to commute longer distances to other areas which will just increase VMT and further tailpipe emissions. So with that, we respectfully ask for your aye vote today. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. As President and CEO of the Inland Empire Economic Partnership, I'm here to express our support as a sponsor of AB 1748. Our nonprofit organization is dedicated to promoting sustainable economic development in California's Inland Empire. We work hand in hand with employers and government officials to make sure that the Inland Empire is a great place to live and work. AB 1748 seeks to enact good neighbor policies which would establish a reasonable and balanced process for logistics facility planning, or proposes a practical setback requirement near sensitive receptors for localities that lack a reasonable policy framework. We believe that this proposal would help address many of the concerns about environmental impacts and air quality, while protecting residents of the Inland Empire from extreme policies that would harm the economy of the region, the state, and indeed the nation. AB 1748 mirrors the agreement with California Attorney General Bonta and the City of Fontana, environmental groups, and industry. The impacts of the settlement were not just limited to a single project and have become the most stringent environmental adoption of standards in California. The ordinance was strongly recommended as a model for other local government across the state to build upon, and AB 1748 echoes those recommendations. The Inland Empire region has a population of 4.7 million residents, making it the 12th largest metropolitan statistical area in the United States. As Assemblymember Ramos said, more than 35% of our labor force commutes daily to the coastal areas for employment. The Inland Empire's proximity to the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach has resulted in the development of a transportation, warehousing, and logistics hub that feeds the west coast of the United States. This hub has anchored the region's economic growth for the past 20 years and generates 275,000 jobs in the broad industry category of transportation and warehousing. The expansion of e-commerce and regional economic integration has fueled the sector's growth, and the hub provides good local jobs, removing vehicles from freeways and shortening people's commute times, increasing the quality of life for those in the region. This industry accounts for almost $1 billion of total wages per month, or 15% of all wages in the region. These jobs are particularly valuable for workers who traditionally have been excluded from well-paying jobs, such as those without a college education. The unprecedented growth in the sector has raised concerns about air quality and environmental impacts. AB 1748 provides sensible policies that would avoid economic pain for residents in our region while addressing these concerns and allowing projects to move forward. Good neighbor policies, by and large, strengthen the relationship between the employer community, local governments, and communities that were impacted by future development. We are proud to support and sponsor AB 1748 and would appreciate your support.
Thank you very much. Are there other witnesses in support of AB 1748.
Madam Chair and members, P. Anthony Thomas, representing the California Building Industry Association, CBIA. We don't have a position on the bill. We certainly like the direction that the author is moving the bill in. We certainly want to take a look at it as it progresses, hopefully through the system, and hopefully be able to offer our support at some point in time within due time. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Alyssa Stillhigh, on behalf of the City of Eastville in support.
Madam Chair and committee members, Andrea Cow with the California Asian Pacific Chamber of Commerce in support. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Frank Molina on behalf of the San Manuel Band of Mission Indians in strong support.
Madam Chair, committee and staff, Don Wilcox with the California Conference of Carpenters in support of a common sense approach that strikes a balance for local communities for important concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the committee, Jeremy Smith here on behalf of the State Building and Construction Trades Council, also in support.
Nicole Wertelman on behalf of San Bernardino County in support.
Madam Chair, Bo Biller on behalf of the Association of Western Employers in support of the bill.
Nick Romo with the League of California Cities. No position yet. Want to look at the amendment to this bill and the next and try to find the path forward.
Thank you very much. Is there any other witnesses in support of the bill? Seeing none, are there any witnesses in opposition to the bill? Go ahead.
All right, good afternoon. I know it's been a long afternoon. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Ana Gonzalez, and I'm here as a mom, but also as the Executive Director of the Center for Community Action and Environmental Justice, also representing as President of Alianza Latina of Rialto Unified School District, also a constituent of Mr. Ramos here. I wanted to begin by clarifying that the Center for Community Action and Environmental Justice, with over 200 Fontana residents, opposed the ordinance as it was coming through the process before finding out that it was a settlement deal between the Attorney General and the City of Fontana, and we stood in opposition till the end. So I wanted to make sure that was clear and out there that our environmental group specifically never supported that ordinance. Because we knew it didn't do enough. For us, a foot closer to a sensitive receptor is a foot closer to death. In my own experience, my son, who is now 17 years old, does not attend regular school because his lungs are destroyed. I used to live in North Rialto, where we were boxed in by warehouses since 2015. And when his pediatrician first told me that he was developing asthma because of PM 2.5 in my environment, that's when I became involved and became an activist for environmental justice. For our communities, of the 4.7 million people of Riverside and San Bernardino County, local control to us means no community input, means no community voices are being heard. Just last night, the City of Rialto passed a warehouse next to a park and a school that's within 1,000 feet of the project. And about 80 people showed up to that city council meeting, and their voices went on deaf ears. Although the City of Rialto does have an ordinance of a 1,000-foot buffer. We have the cities of Fontana, cities of Redlands, cities of Colton, cities of Jurupa Valley who are looking into those 1,000-foot buffers, and we are still working with those localities because we've been able to vote in people who really care about the community and put people over profit. But for the rest of the cities, that's not the case. Local government, local control means that they're not with the community that they represent. Although these members of these local control entities swore to protect and serve the community, they are not. And in January 24th of this year, we sent a letter to Governor Newsom begging, pleading to declare a state of emergency in our communities because we have a health emergency. When I was an educator at the Rialto Unified School District, half of my students had inhalers. That is not normal. I also want to add that we have been in conversations with the Assembly member staff, but I have yet to get a phone call from the Assembly member to talk to us, to speak with us, to get community together to address the issues of this bill and why a foot closer to a warehouse is a foot closer to death, and why we're begging for better and state intervention because our local government's not listening. We have had over 100 protests, over thousands of people show up to these city council meetings, to the board of supervisor meetings, to AQMD meetings, to CARB meetings, and still folks are not listening. And so I ask for your no vote on this bill because we need to do more. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would you like to?
Thank you. My name is Will Barrett. I'm the National Senior Director for Clean Air Advocacy with the American Lung Association, also speaking in opposition. Thank you, Madam Chair, for the opportunity to speak, and thank you, Mr. Ramos. A lot of important focus today on the public health damages and disparities caused by the logistics industry operations. We've heard many talking points about the need for appropriate balance between health of community and the ongoing growth in the operations of the logistics industry. Unfortunately, my organization's opposed because we do not see balance in this legislation. We don't see anything guaranteeing reductions in harmful emissions. We do see pathways for continued operation or continued permitting of major sites of logistics operations in close proximity to sensitive receptors, homes, schools, parks, healthcare facilities. So again, we see this bill as not having the equation complete, for example. It favors continued large-scale development. It gives opportunities for large-scale development to be sited if that facility is below 400,000 square feet. It gives outs for that distance barrier for undefined policies, whether they're called a good neighbor policy or an industrial guidebook or anything else. None of that guarantees any sort of emission reduction. Now, San Bernardino and Riverside are the two counties included in this legislation. These are the #1 and #2 most polluted counties in the United States. Residents face between 4 and 6 months per year of unhealthy ozone pollution days. That's 177 days per year on average that people are breathing high levels of ozone pollution that threaten their health. At the local level, we're talking about diesel exhaust exposures. These lead to asthma attacks, heart attacks and strokes, lung cancer development, and premature death. So again, we do not see any balance for health in this legislation. That's why we're opposed to the bill. We urge your no vote. And really, I would say after all of the discussion today that passing this bill and expecting it to be a balanced approach going forward is a false choice. There's simply, again, we do not see any emission reductions included in this bill. The health protections are non-existent. And we think that there are better opportunities out there to move this important topic forward. There's no doubt about it. I appreciate the robust discussion today, but this is a major source of pollution, major source of health harm and health disparities that need to be addressed if the people in the region are going to have healthy lungs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there other witnesses in opposition? Just your name, your position, and your organization?
Yes, Fatima Iqbal Zubair with California Enviro Voters in opposition to this bill. Also speaking for Climate Action California, the Climate Center, Riverside Neighbors Opposing Warehouses, Amigos de los Rios, Friends Committee on Legislation of California, and Lutheran Office of Public Policy California in opposition to this bill as well. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Clarissa. I live in Riverside, and I'm opposed to AB 1748.
Mi nombre es Miriam Quiñones y yo vivo en la ciudad de Rialto y estoy en contra de la proposición ABC 1748 porque me preocupa la salud de mi familia.
My name is Luis Carretero. I am a member of, I am working with CACAEJ, and I would like to say that I would like to oppose AB 1748 as someone who works in one of the warehouses that have been discussed today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Daryl Little on behalf of NRDC in respectful opposition. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Xavier Brambila. I'm a resident in the Redlands County, and I oppose the AB 1748.
Hola, mi nombre es Marielena Hernández Gutiérrez, soy residente de Bloomington, California, un hermoso lugar que se está destruyendo a causa de las bodegas. La escuela de mi hijo fue quitada y por favor les pido en el nombre de Jesús que no aprueben esa ley 1748. Más lejos, que vayan donde están las tierras desérticas, todo el camino de allá por Las Vegas está desértico, hay que las trabajen. Nuestras comunidades ya se trabajaron, ya tienen árboles frutales, ya tienen mucha vegetación, no más destrucción, por favor, no más destrucción. Gracias.
Mi nombre es Jorge Pérez, soy Bloomington residente. Estoy en contra de la AB 1748 porque es una ley completamente injusta. Gracias.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Joaquin Castillejos. I am a resident of Bloomington, California. My elementary school was sold for a warehouse, and I am against AB 1748 because it allows things like that to happen. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Anthony Noriega. I'm the District Director for the League of United Latin American Citizens in the Inland Empire. It's about darn time that we have real legislation that protects our minority communities. Every time we turn around, we get left behind. I oppose AB 1748 adamantly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sakira Carter on behalf of Sierra Club California in strong opposition. Thank you.
Mi nombre es Claudia Cuevas y estoy en contra de la proposición AB 1748 y por favor quiero que tomen en cuenta que los que estamos aquí somos la comunidad, los que venimos a aprobar AB 1000 somos la comunidad y los que están a contra de nosotros son puros abogados. ¿Dónde está la comunidad? Ellos están diciendo hace rato que era la comunidad. Yo no veo ni un padre, no veo ni a alguien de la iglesia, no veo a nadie de la comunidad.
Hi, my name is Stacey Ramos from the city of Fontana, whose elected leaders did not listen to her when I brought up my concerns, and I'm in strong opposition to AB 1748. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Indra Ramirez. I'm against 1748. I think it's a horrible idea, and I'm not trying to die. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Evan Minton with Voices for Progress. We're responsible business owners and business leaders, and we stand with these community members. Thank you.
Elizabeth Senna. I live in the city of Fontana, and my concerns continue to fall on deaf ears. So I strongly oppose AB 1748. 300 feet does nothing for us.
Thank you. Are there any other witnesses in opposition? Seeing none, are there any questions of the committee? Yes, Assemblymember Berner.
So, my esteemed colleague, I'm not going to repeat the story I've said 3 times today or twice today. You know where I grew up. You know I experienced the air quality issues that so many of the community members have talked about. I don't think your bill goes far enough. I think there should be some sort of evaluation where, depending on the impact of that particular warehouse, there are mitigation measures that have to go into place. I feel like AB 1000 went too far and was too prescriptive. I feel yours is not prescriptive enough. The problem, again, we're solving for is we're trying to do state law to ensure that council members and county boards of supervisors do the right thing, which they're apparently not doing. And if I would not raise my kids in the Inland Empire like I was raised because of the health quality impacts. I experienced it myself. My sister experienced it. And so I also want to say something, like shame on those council members and boards of supervisors who aren't listening to the communities, right? That's why we're sitting here as the California State Legislature dealing with this. Now, I know you're trying to come up with your answer to the problem. Assemblymember or Majority Leader Reyes is coming up with her answer to the problem. There are other places in the state that has this, but not in the way that Riverside and San Bernardino have. And I think what would be best for this body is for you and Majority Leader Reyes to come together and find something in the middle, because there's a solution in the middle that addresses the community concerns and addresses the business concerns that are being raised. You know, you could have a living wall on the edge of a warehouse where it helps mitigate it. They do it in Mexico City. They do it in places with way poorer air quality. So there are things that they could do, and that's what we should be focusing on, is what are the real emissions? How do we really reduce them so that the community is less impacted? And, you know, maybe the magic number is 1,000, maybe it's 500. That's up to be debated, because we don't know what the actual emissions from that site are. And when I think about sensitive sites, I do think about schools. I think about kids playing soccer. I mean, somebody as a kid who had to run in the IE in the 80s. You guys all have it better now. It was awful, right? Those kids running and playing soccer, they should not have to deal with this air quality issue. So I really, I'm not sure what's going to happen with the Reyes bill, but I really want one of these bills to move forward today, and I'm willing to give you a courtesy eye. And if I don't see that this move a little bit more so that it is actually addressing the real impacts of real warehouses that they are doing on the community, then I reserve the right to vote no on the floor. But I really encourage you guys, don't put the rest of us up for this. Please go work this out yourself in the IE caucus, is what my ask of you and the Majority Leader is.
Assemblymember Wilson.
Thank you to the author for approaching this issue. I know being in session last time, it was a lot of wrangling near the end of there as thinking about the previous bill. And now we're here, and we have two bills that are similar and very different. Same topic, but very different. And I have to agree with my colleague. She's been going first a lot, and we don't always agree on things, but we're agreeing today. In regard to the bill not, going far enough. I think when it comes to, I appreciate the local control aspect of it, because we do have bad actors on our council and our county supervisors who are not taking into consideration the community that they serve. And as much as we want to say vote people out, we all know it's really hard to get an incumbent out. They get entrenched and they have people supporting them, and we can't remove them. So I think there is an opportunity within your bill, as you define that there's local action or good neighbor policy, putting some, I'll use the words from the previous author, putting some guardrails around that, putting some minimum standards of taking certain things into consideration. I think it's really important that we meet with everyone. We all know that our staff does a lot of heavy lifting for us. We say a thing and they do a thing. But it is important that members of our community see us too, because our staff are not their representatives. We are. So I think it's important that we take the time to meet face to face with our constituents. And even if we're directing staff afterwards, that we take that time. And I think that your bill does need a bit more in regard to some minimum standards related to what a good neighbor policy have, because technically in my area, ours was really robust and it had a lot of flexibility and it had opportunities for discretion. It had distinct opportunities for community engagement, meaning in my community, in my city now, the first person that notified a project wants to come is the community, even before they turn in an application. That is part of the process, so they can be fully aware and engaged. And so I think, I'm not saying be that prescriptive, because then I would be like, don't be that prescriptive. But I'm saying putting some minimum standards in there, I think will be very helpful and will allow the community to be engaged, because I think there's a path forward in this regard. I have an issue when we do a one-size-fits-all approach to the state. I appreciate that it's more focused on the district, and I appreciated that amendment from the previous author. But I also believe that if you guys get it right and it's good, then it could be something that is applied to the whole state. And so I think there's opportunity, not now, not this year. Yeah. See if you guys work it out and make it look good and try it out and see what happens. But I think there's opportunity. And so for that reason, I'll support your bill moving forward. But I ask the same thing. Work with the community, put in guardrails, be more defined on the section as it relates to the local action plan, good neighbor policy, things of that sort, as well as work with your counterpart in the district I'm sorry, in those counties where you guys share, each portion has a district there. Work with her to be able to get something that's good and that could be agreeable for the district as a whole. Thank you.
Assemblymember Dixon?
I'm trying to understand what, are we saying over and above, are we looking for a solution over and above current state law in terms of emissions and diesel trucks? And are we looking for more than that to have a special rule for Fontana or Riverside, San Bernardino? Is that what we're saying?
Do you want me to answer what I meant by what I said? So it's not the rule. There's a set guideline that's matching Fontana that says 300. There's as I believe within the bill, correct me if I'm wrong, there's been lots of amendments flying around, that they can get to the 300 if they have a local action plan, good neighbor policy. It names off a few things that they can call it that would allow them to get there. There is no definition of what those are. It's not prescriptive,
Okay.
which is okay because the previous bill was prescriptive. But we do, as was stated by the previous author, we put in guardrails on things. We put in minimum standards on a lot of things when it comes to local government. And so, and that's so that there's a consistency statewide and so that those things uplift our overall principles for our state. We have, as our governor has said this, the legislature, both in the Senate and the Assembly, that we want safe, healthy environments for people. We want clean air, we want clean water, we want all these goals. We're moving towards electrification, we're strengthening our grid, we're doing all these things. This bill, or any bill on this subject for that matter, as it relates to a good policy, good neighborhood policy, a local action plan, our general plan, all the things that we do as local government should be aligned with those goals. And right now, this bill doesn't speak to that at all. And so I think it's important that we have some guardrails, some minimum standards, and look at this as a pilot program for this particular county, and see if there's an opportunity to be able to translate that to ensure that other counties and cities across our state have those minimum requirements when it comes to meeting our environmental, our climate goals, our environmental impact goals.
But those laws are already there, and those requirements are already there for clean air. No, they're not already there. But the good neighbor policy, such as that, what you just described, or the local plan, those have not been defined? I'm just clarifying for my own edification.
Some cities have them, some counties have them.
Just don't know what they are as it applies to.
Right. He's saying that in this particular bill, it says that you should have them. And what I'm saying is that you should have them. It works in our area. And that each city or county should be nuanced enough to be able to put in mitigating factors that achieve our climate goals, as well as mitigate the negative impacts that can occur from industry, right? Whether it's a warehouse or whatever project in their particular community, and only they know that, what they could do, what their requirements are in their community. So I'm saying they should define, and there should be a little bit more robust language than there is currently in regard to that.
Okay, well, I respect what you're saying.
And you can disagree.
I support, of course, anything that's good neighbor, anything that is going to help us have healthy communities. I just don't want to be so onerous that it impedes or constricts or constrains the development of these industrial structures. How would you respond to that, Mr.
How would I respond to which question? It was like
Assemblymember Wilson's comments.
I think the discussion that was going on the dais shows the complexities of the issue, the complexities of the state and the complexities of the local control coming together to work some different compromise out. I believe our bill is a step in the right direction. We have gotten agreement within the local areas with the testimony and the witnesses we have that there's a starting point of a base minimum of 300 feet, and we did accept committee amendments that started to put definitions within the bill that will be in print after this meeting. So we continue to work on those areas, but we do want to retain local control. And so we look at, currently the bill is at a 300-foot setback, and then has the different base minimums for local jurisdictions. If they don't have an ordinance that meets that, right, then they use that as the base minimum. The local control still is intact because they could go above and look at the sensitive receptors within the Inland Empire. So that way as a balance to get the discussion moving forward. And again, I just want to reiterate that the discussion that was going on here really adds to the complexities of trying to get people together to work together, which I believe our bill is a step in the right direction to get that moving.
And I agree with you. If there are any amenities, as I said earlier in the 1,000 bill, I mean, just we've got homes and schools next to these warehouses, and I believe in the warehouses. They provide jobs and middle-class income jobs, and they can be interpreted in a positive way or built in a positive way that is conducive to interacting so closely with residential communities. I think if that can be done, and this is really a private ownership deal, I mean, to see how they can be adding value to the community. And I think that's mutually beneficial. I will be supporting your bill, but I'm mindful of what my colleagues say, that there are continuing ways without being onerous and being supportive to the balance structure to allow this to go forward. So that's where I feel. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, Assemblymember Rivas.
Yeah, I think, appreciate the comments that have been made by our colleagues. And I think, unfortunately, I wasn't able to be here for the first bill, the Majority Leader's bill, which, clearly she's done a lot of work in this space. We've heard from passionate constituents, and we understand the air quality issues in the region. Appreciate this effort as well, but here we have a bill, as we've heard, one bill that goes too far, one bill that doesn't go far enough. The legislative process is such that, we hope that moving forward, we find a pathway to strike that balance that's going to be in the best interest, not only of our state, but certainly the region where these bills have originated from. A region that we know suffers from very poor air quality. Listening to constituents, the data is out there. We understand that this is an issue of heavy truck traffic in that region, and so certainly, ultimately, we want to make progress in this area. As we know, a lot of engagement has occurred on this issue, and just hope that parties will come together and find a path forward. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments from the? Seeing none, entertain a motion.
Respectfully asked to close.
Oh, I need a motion first. I don't have a
Okay.
motion yet. Oh, so moved by Assemblymember Dixon. What? I know. I'll second it. Would you like to close?
Thank you, Madam Chair, for that. I just want to reiterate that when I was on the County Board of Supervisors, these projects came to us, and I was a lone vote against these projects. Specifically, there was one in Bloomington that was alluded to. I voted against that project because there was no safeguards and no base minimum looking at these projects. This bill starts to move that forward. So we've been engaged in these issues for some time. And certainly, getting people to get together, even to agree to where we're at today, and hearing from colleagues to move forward. And with all due respect, today was the first time that I heard that another bill was going to be amended to be Riverside and San Bernardino County only. And so when that aspect's there, we will continue to work together in the Inland Empire to ensure that we have a bill. We do have co-authors on this bill that are from the Inland Empire Caucus. So we continue to work together. We'll continue to hear those concerns and ideas. With some of the comments that were made, there is some aggressiveness that goes on in our local politics that I guess that everyone can talk to. We do listen. We do have our staff listen. But when things turn too aggressive, there's protection elements that need to take place. So we will be open. We will talk. Today, again, was the first time we heard that there was willingness to amend a bill to center on the Inland Empire only. I ask for your aye vote.
So thank you very much, Assembly Member. And I can't even begin to tell you how frustrated I am with these two bills. But we're only talking about yours right now. But I keep thinking about we forget about something. We forget about the people. The people that are in this room and all throughout your district that have had health issues. it's great that you were the only no vote one time because you realized that it wasn't good for your community. But how can you bring those other people along? And so here we are in this situation that we have your constituents that are still struggling and are very frustrated. And I really understand where they're coming from because I feel like locals have let people down. You know, was it for profit? Was it for making sure your general fund looked better? Whatever the case might be, but we let people down. And sometimes we can't do that, man. Anyway, I just want to say, I appreciate your desire to work on this project and the developments for San Bernardino and Riverside counties. The amendments outlined in our committee analysis ensure the projects meet the minimal siting criteria agreed to in the DOJ's settlement with the City of Fontana. If this is one of the two bills, right, on this subject that were before our committee today. The two bills differ significantly in their approach to this issue. It is imperative that a balance be struck if both these bills go through. If not, I hope you'll continue to work on this. These are important issues, and you know that. We got people here that are just, and we know the developers, and there's jobs. We get it, but we need to make sure this bill is a very sound bill, and it's complex. I would just hope that if Assemblymember Reyes gets hers through, you guys can accomplish something together. You live near each other, we work together, we've got to move forward. I'll be supporting your bill with the amendments outlined in the analysis. The motion is due pass as amended to the Appropriations Committee.
Aguilar Curry.
Aye.
Aguilar Curry, aye. Dixon.
Aye.
Dixon, aye. Berner. Berner, aye. Pacheco. Pacheco, aye. Ramos.
Aye.
Ramos, aye. Rivas. Rivas, aye. Waldron. Wilson. Wilson, aye.
Bill's out 7-0.
Thank you.
To learn more about citizens in support of El Dorado Hills, our fight against Project Frontier, and to donate to the legal fund, go to citizens4edh.org or find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube.